Well, hello everybody. This is the question and answer session that we promised you and you guys have been waiting all week for. I'm sorry we're a little bit late. It's been kind of a crazy week for us. So before we get started with the question and answers, I thought we probably should go ahead and do a quick review of what this week has been like and give you an idea about what's coming up here in the next few days. So to start with, we got off trail this past Sunday. I should probably tell you right now, today is actually Thursday the 28th, yes?
I think so.
We walked into Tehachapi. My father came up and picked us up there and brought us back to his house in Bakersfield, which is about a half an hour north of Tehachapi. So our original intent was just to do like a double zero here in Bakersfield, and then ideally on Wednesday, which was yesterday, get back on the trail and resume our hike. But a couple of things have happened that have caused us to alter our plans. The first of those was a record heat wave. As you can see from the on the screen here, the LA Times was reporting potentially record-breaking heat this week, and also this screenshot here of what the record, or excuse me, what those temperatures actually were. Now this was for the town of Ridgecrest, which not Bakersfield, because Bakersfield is not on the PCT. Ridgecrest, however, is one of the towns that many PCT hikers go to as soon as they get off the trail at Walker's Pass and go there for resupply before continuing on to Kennedy Meadows. So as you can see, temperatures 106, 107 degrees in Ridgecrest. So insanely hot and actually extremely unsafe temperatures for through hiking in through the desert. So because of that, we've decided to go ahead and continue to stay here in Bakersfield for another few days until this current heat wave breaks, which is supposed to be Saturday, day after tomorrow. The temperatures, I think, are supposed to drop almost 20 degrees by Saturday. So current plan is get back on trail Saturday. However, because we've lost an entire week sitting out the heat wave, we've decided rather than going back and picking a trail into Tehachapi, we are actually going to bypass about 50 miles of the desert and get back on the trail at Walker's Pass. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, if you skip 50 miles of the trail, that's not a through hike, you're right. However, we have one full year to complete the entire trail. And with my dad living here and me coming to visit, it'll be no problem for us to come back this winter, November, December, January, and go ahead and pick up and hike those 50 miles we skipped and complete the requirement for the through hike within a year. Okay, so enough about that. And besides the record heat wave, there's actually a second reason that we've decided to extend our stay here in Bakersfield and take a few more zeros. And I'll let Goldilocks explain that.
So as Ken mentioned, or Roadkill mentioned in one of the previous videos on the walk through the aqueduct, I developed a severe case of either shin splints or possibly a stress fracture in my right shin. So, and I appreciate all of you guys that commented on giving me tips on how to heal it or wishing me well on my recovery. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. As many of you know, one of the ways, the best way to recover from shin splints is rest and not hiking for 50 more miles on that leg, and elevation and ice. So I've been able to do that here. So it's been great to have that, those extra days. I'm feeling much, much better, but I'm not 100% yet. And so I'm kind of on the fence at this point on whether or not the best course of action is to take a few extra days off, or if I'm prepared to hike. So I'll make that decision tomorrow based on how I feel. One of the options, of course, would be picking up with Roadkill and the family from Walker Pass. The other option would be to let them go ahead and hike those miles and meet them in Kennedy Meadows and pick up from there. So I will make that decision tomorrow based on how I feel. The last thing I want to do is push it too soon and end up with an injury that's going to take me off trail permanently. So it's a tough decision. I have very mixed feelings about what I want to do or what I should do. My body, my heart tells me to go, but I don't know what my body's telling me, so we'll see. So first off, we want to thank you guys all for your questions. We have tons of them, and they're great questions, so we're really excited to be able to answer them for you. The first question is directed for Ken. It says, I see that you have an umbrella. Why don't you use that more to provide some shade?
The reality is I do use the umbrella relatively often for shade. It doesn't necessarily always show on the videos, but the main problem with an umbrella is, particularly here in Southern California, they're really hard to use in the wind. So a lot of times I've just chosen to just suffer with the sun beating down on my head rather than trying to wrestle an umbrella which is being blown every which way or turned inside out. Okay, the next question. How did each of you get your trail names?
So I'll start. As some of you may have seen in one of our earlier videos before we started the trail, I was very picky about my pillows. I went through probably 5 different pillows before I settled on the one that I ended up with, that I still have on trail. And so my trail name is Goldilocks, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who one bed was too hard, one bed was too soft, one bed was just right. Kind of the same thing with my pillow selection and kind of everything else that I have in my pack. But,
Okay.
but that's how I got my trail name.
I got my name Roadkill. Well, I understand that there are some subscribers out there that may be from outside the United States, and I don't know if the term roadkill is something that's used in Europe or other parts of the world, but here in the U.S., roadkill refers typically to animals that get hit or killed while trying to run across a highway, and they get hit by a car and they make a big mess. So I got my name Roadkill because that's kind of what happened to me. I was riding my bicycle to work one day and I was hit and run over by a bus. So if you want a little bit more background on that, I think you can go all the way back to our video number 3, which was titled Who Are We? Yeah, Who Are We? And I also talked a little bit about it briefly, 3 or 4 weeks back. I think it was during the video where we hiked Baden-Powell. Some people asked why I was limping and had some other questions. They noticed that my legs were scarred up, so I talked a little bit about it there. But anyway, that's how I got my name Roadkill. Okay, and this question: do you want to do more big hikes in the future?
Yes, at this point we have already talked about possibly doing the CDT at some point in the future. And we also would like to do the Idaho Centennial Trail, which is a trail that goes from the southern border of Idaho and Nevada and goes all the way up to the border of Idaho and Canada. So that's something else that we've talked about. Probably in the future we would take our pack goats, especially on the Idaho Centennial Trail. So be prepared to see more goat action in the future. All right, next question. Have you seen any hikers with pets or pack animals on the trail?
No pack animals, but as you saw in the video that we made when we were at Acton KOA, there was a pair of hikers there. Gemma from Australia, who I think is going by the trail name Dollary Doo, but I'm not sure if that actually stuck. And then an American hiker she was hiking with named Ozzy. That nothing confusing about that. Anyway, they had adopted a little kitten they named Dave, and they adopted him in Wrightwood. And so when we met them, they had probably had Dave for close to 2 weeks, maybe, 10 days anyway. He'd been hiking with them, riding right on top of Gemma's backpack, or carried inside of a little snuggle. And the last we heard, which was within the past couple of days, they're still doing great. Dave's getting bigger. Actually, they just recently discovered that Dave is actually a girl, not a boy like they originally thought. So,
but she is still going to go by Dave.
Yeah, but they're still on the trail with their pet kitten.
All right, next question. What gear are you happy with, and what gear did you get rid of?
So the gear I think that both of us are pretty happy with is our tent. We have a Big Agnes Copper Spur 3, so the 3-person tent. But even though it's a little bit heavier than the 2-person version, we really like having the extra room in there. And honestly,
I can't imagine trying to do it with a 2-person tent.
I mean, it's perfect for the two of us. Anything smaller would be too small. Mostly happy with the rest of our gear. There is something that we both have and we're both getting rid of. This Gossamer gear, I think it's an eighth of an inch foam pad. Our intent on bringing that was twofold. One was to put underneath our inflatable mattresses at night to give them an extra layer of puncture protection from anything sharp on the ground. And the second reason was that if we needed just a pad we could lay on to take a lunch break or something like that, it would give us a little more comfort than just laying right on the ground itself. But unfortunately, the pad is so thin that it doesn't really provide any protection. It's not worth the hassle of carrying it, because you might as well just lay on the ground. But we are going to replace them with the standard kind of a Z-Rest style pad for the same purpose. We're going to keep our inflatable pads, but we are going to be using these for not only extra thermal protection, but also extra puncture protection, and also being a much more comfortable daytime napping pad where we don't want to actually use our inflatables.
And much more durable.
Much more durable, yes, by far. As far as gear that we got rid of...
puffies.
Oh,
we are changing our puffies. I have the Ghost Whisperer, the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer, and yours is... I
had a puffy jacket made by the First Light company. I honestly can't remember what the name of it was, but it had waterproof treated down, which was a good selling point for me when I got it. To be perfectly honest, they were way too stingy with the down. It's just not a warm puffy.
Same with the Ghost Whisperer.
Yeah, and so we have both decided we're going to send home our First Light and our Mountain Hardwear puffies, and we have ordered for this upcoming Sierras, where we expect the coldest temperatures probably of the entire trip. We have both ordered puffies, the Rab, I'm never R-A-B.
R-A-B.
Alpine Microlight, I think is the name of the jacket. We just got those today, and while physically they're a little heavier in weight than the two jackets they're replacing, they're also substantially more. It's obvious that they're going to be a significantly warmer coat or jacket, which is what we wanted. I mean, that's the purpose of a coat, to keep you warm. If it doesn't do that, you're what the hell.
All right, next question. If you don't complete the PCT this year, will you hike what's left next year or call it good?
Assuming that our health stays good, we have every intention of trying to complete a full hike of the PCT. Even though I already touched on that at the beginning of this video, I want to emphasize or remind people that a through hike is considered successful if the entire hike is completed within a 1-year period. So we started our hike this spring on March 16th, And so as long as we're able to come back here to Southern California and hike those few miles that we've skipped, like the one from Tehachapi to Walker's Basin, before March of next year, then yes, we have every intention of doing that, and so we can actually call ourselves PCT thru hikers.
And kind of on a related question, any thoughts of flip-flopping section hiking, or are you committed to continuing NOBO?
As much as possible, we want to continue NOBO. As I've already said, even though we're skipping a section of the trail between Tehachapi and Walker Pass, we intend to start at Walker Pass and continue NOBO as far as we can go. Now, however, having said that, our hiking pace currently, we realize, is probably not going to be fast enough for us to get to the Canadian border before October 1st. And after October 1st, there's a real chance that weather may simply prevent us from being able to complete the hike. So one option we've considered, and we won't make this decision yet, but we will be making a decision probably
For the Sierra.
Yeah, as soon as we complete the Sierras, is to do something similar to what a hiker last year did. If any of you watched YouTube videos last year and were aware of Mary Mansfield, the woman from Scotland, she actually got into Northern California and, like us, was running a little bit behind and was worried about not being able to get to Canada before the weather came in. So she skipped from Northern California up to the Bridge of the Gods on the Oregon-Washington border, hiked north all the way to Manning Park, to the monument, and once she made it there, then she flipped all the way back to Northern California and completed her hike from there up to the Washington-Oregon border at the Bridge of the Gods. The advantage to doing that was that the weather that late in the fall was still mild enough that she was able to do it without having to worry about getting weathered out. So she completed her whole hike, and she did flip-flop, but I think that we may end up adopting the same tactic ourselves. Okay, before you began your hike, what points along the trail were you most looking forward to seeing or hiking through?
Everything but the desert for me. I've been really looking forward to the Sierra, really looking forward to Oregon and Washington. Since we live in Washington, it's been really neat to see other people's videos about just how gorgeous the state is. And so it's I'm really looking forward to seeing that part of the state because I have not hiked through that area before. But I've also lived in Oregon, so I feel like I'm hiking. I grew up in California, lived in California, Oregon, and Washington, so the entire trail is kind of like home for me. So like I said, everything but the desert. But it's been particularly cool to see iconic spots that I've seen on other people's videos and then to see them in person. So there's so many places that I was looking forward to seeing, but I'm really looking forward to hiking in Washington.
For me, I'll be most excited, at least initially, to see Kennedy Meadows. I've watched YouTube videos over the years, and there's just something magical about Kennedy Meadows. I mean, it's the first real major milestone along the PCT. And walking in there, knowing that we've survived the desert and we're really legitimate thru hikers is something that's really exciting to me. But even more than that is getting into the Sierras. I talked about it in my initial video when I talked about who we were and why we wanted to hike this. The Sierras were where I got my first introduction to backpacking as a very young kid. I mean, 6, 7, 8 years old. My dad was taking me up into the Sierras just outside of Mammoth Lakes, and that was a place that we went every single summer and we backpacked into, and we fished and hiked, and it really planted the seed for my love of backpacking and the outdoors. So going back there now after all these years, it's been, oh my God, 40 years probably since I've been up in the Sierras where the PCT is going. So it's really going to be exciting. It's going to be a homecoming for me, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay. What are some of the features you like and dislike about each of your packs?
So I'll start. I have the ULA Catalyst. I overall really, really like the pack. The only thing that I dislike about the pack is I sweat a lot, and there isn't any space between my back and the pad in the back. So my back just gets hot and soaked, and on a hot day, it's hot. And on a cooler day, I still sweat, but then when I take my pack off, my shirt is drenched and I freeze to death, so then I have to wear my puffy. So I don't like that about it, but I knew that going into it, so I was prepared for it. But otherwise, I love the pack. I fit everything in it well. It's comfortable to wear. It's rated for, I think, up to 40 pounds. I've had actually well over that, probably 45 to 50 pounds in it, and it still has carried pretty comfortably. Took a little bit to adjust the shoulders to where those were comfortable, but once I did that, I have not had any problems with it at all, so I've been really happy with it.
And my pack is the Osprey Exos 58 liter pack, and the thing I like about it most is simply it's a relatively light pack. I don't have the exact weight, around 2.5 pounds. And it's a reasonably well-made pack. I haven't had any problems with failure in it as far as seams, straps, everything's still holding up very well. The problem I have with the pack is that my understanding it's designed for relatively light carry. I think 35 to 40 pounds is its rated carry weight, or comfortable carry weight anyway. My base weight is about 22 pounds. I carry a lot of stuff, particularly electronics and a few other things that most people wouldn't carry. So with a 22-pound base weight, and then you throw in there 3 or 4 liters of water and 4 or 5 days worth of food, and my pack weight is easily over 40 pounds. And I really, the pack at that weight is not really that comfortable to carry. It just doesn't feel like it rides well. So it's hard to quantify, but I'm actually at this point seriously considering changing to a different pack, maybe one more designed to carry a heavier load, in the hopes that it'll just be more comfortable to backpack with. So.
Next question. What is one thing you know now that you maybe wish you knew when you started your trip?
I wish I'd known that the desert is freaking hard. It doesn't really come across in people you talk to or the YouTube videos that you watch, just how difficult the desert section of the PCT is. And by which I mean it's significantly hillier than I was anticipating. Lots more ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. There are long water carries which you often don't have to worry about on other parts of the PCT, so your pack weight is often going to be heavier, probably heavier during the desert than it will be any other time during the entire trip. Now I say that now, we haven't actually had experience going north yet, but heavy water carries, and the trail itself, in many places, I guess I had this vision of walking through the desert, you'd have this nice, smooth, sandy trail to walk on. No, it was rockier than hell. And boy, there were a lot of places I thought I was going to break my ankle every step I took. So, of course, I knew the desert would be hot, and I've made it abundantly clear that I'm not a fan of hot weather. But I would say that I underestimated just how difficult the desert was going to be, and how difficult it's going to be to make good, long hiking days. So. Yeah, you agree? She agrees.
Yeah, definitely. I knew there would be hills, but I didn't imagine that there would be so many uphills and so steep of uphills. It seems like there's 3 times as much uphill as there is downhill, which I don't know how that happens, but it just seems like for every little bit of downhill you have way more uphill, and I just have not figured out the physics of that yet. It doesn't make sense, but yeah. So it's been just a lot more difficult than I anticipated it, and a lot more difficult to increase our mileage because of that, I think. Whatever happened to Portland guy?
Portland guy!
Yay, Portland guy!
For some of you guys who are maybe newer subscribers to the channel, the first 5 or 6 weeks that we were on trail, there were very, very few hikers out there during those first few weeks. But there was this one guy that started around the same time we did, and we just kind of kept flipping and flopping around each other. We'd pass him, he'd pass us. And for the longest time, we didn't even know what the guy's name was. He had at one point mentioned that he was from Portland, Oregon, so we just took to referring to him as Portland guy. But he was distinct in that he had this enormous pack. Oh my God, it must have been an 80-liter pack, something you'd take to Mount Everest. And it just, it was a foot taller than his head, and it was red, so you could see him coming a mile away. And so he was kind of a running, I don't want to say a running joke, because the guy wasn't a joke. He was a serious hiker, but it just became funny that, he just sort of would appear once every day, once every other day. He'd just appear out of nowhere, and we'd pass him or he'd pass us. We subsequently found out the guy's name is actually Donnie. I don't remember his last name, but Donnie. And
I think his trail name is Bosco.
Bosco, maybe his trail name. So now it's actually been, 3 or 4 weeks at least since we've heard anything at all about him. He actually commented on one of our videos at one point, but that's been a while. So
last we heard he was in Big Bear.
Maybe. But Donnie, if you're out there, you're watching this video,
hi, Portland guy.
Leave us a comment if anybody has seen Donnie or Bosco on the trail. We'd love to know what happened to him too. I'd like to think he's still out there hiking. So, Goldilocks, how is the hiking skirt, and does it have shorts built in? Does it cause chafing? And have you tried the Kula cloth?
So my skirt is a Purple Rain skirt, and it does not have hiking shorts built in. So I actually wear some athletic shorts underneath, some 7-inch inseam shorts. I love it. I started out with pants. If some of you have watched the earlier videos, I started out with Mountain Hardwear Dynama pants, and in watching Roadkill with his kilt, I got really jealous because he looked so cool and comfortable, and my pants were sticking to my legs, and as I lost weight, they were just getting more and more uncomfortable. So I switched to my skirt and have not looked back. I did initially have a little bit of chafing as my legs, just from sweating and down below where my shorts were, but that really hasn't been a problem in the last couple of weeks or so. I did use some Body Glide initially, but I only had to do that for maybe 3 days, and I haven't had a problem since then. So it's been very comfortable. As far as the Kula cloth, I have not tried a Kula cloth. I have hiked with some people that do, including Sacagawea, and have heard nothing but wonderful things about them. So I am considering trying one. I just have not tried one yet. Thank you for your question.
So we have a lot of questions here in front of us, but for reasons of brevity, and because if the video becomes too long, not only is it hard for people at home to watch, to sit down on, but it also takes forever to upload. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this. We want to answer your questions, but we're going to go ahead and take a break here. We'll make this part 1 of our Q&A, and then I'll follow it up probably within the next 24 hours, if not less, with part 2 and the remainder of the questions. Also, for those of you who had questions specifically for the family, for Kronk and Sacagawea, They have agreed to do their own Q&A, so look for that to follow part 2 of ours. Okay? Appreciate the questions from you guys. Thanks very much for watching. In part 2, we actually are going to open this on camera. We had a one of our subscribers, whose name I can't read without my glasses, Joe Banal, or I'm sorry, if I'm butchering your names, I apologize. Bonal or Banal, Brit Dog. Apparently he was planning to hike this year, but because of the virus situation, he had to cancel his plans. But as a fan of the channel, he wanted to send us a little package to kind of, just because he's a cool guy, I guess. So on part 2, we'll open this up and see what the surprise is in here. So, okay, thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys soon.